Leeds United have come through what I will be honest is an incredibly difficult run of fixtures. You'll look back and you'll see Man City, Liverpool, Man United, Liverpool again amongst those fixtures and think, oh, clearly that was a pretty tough run, but the tough run isn't quite done yet as Leeds United end up facing Newcastle tonight. Fun little fact for you as well. This will be the 10th game in a row that one of our opponents has been in the top 10 at the kickoff of our match against them. Yeah, it's not the most fun of runs. But in this video, I'm going to do a very, very quick preview. I'm going to talk about how Newcastle play, how they're able to get the results that they are, and some of the biggest challenges around that, specifically around our own tactical setup, how we might set up, and ultimately what we can expect to see in the match later on. And I think it's going to be a good time. First off, we need to start with a fun little fact. I say a fun little fact, it's not the most fun of fact for Leeds United fans at the minute. Newcastle are currently unbeaten in 11 games at home. That includes in the League Cup, and in the Champions League. And their last match was at home against Crystal Palace. They play at home against Leeds United. After they play at home against Leeds United, they play at home against Bournemouth, sorry, and then they play at home again against Manchester City. So they're on quite a good run, and they're making St James's Park a little bit of a fortress at the minute, which means that we can go there not really expecting to claim all 3 points. It'd be nice, but if anyone's going there with full expectations of it, looking at the fact that they're ninth in the league, and they might think, oh, there's a bit of weakness there. Not at home, which is a fairly significant point, and we've got a few very, very big points to come to in a minute. Tactically, they play in a 4-3-3, which tends to be based on that very, very solid midfield with Guimaraes, with Joe Linton, with Tonali, which makes it an incredibly tough one to break down because that's a fairly stodgy midfield setting. Joe Linton is happy enough to get forwards, as is Guimaraes, as is Tonali from time to time, but it's not the easiest to break down. It will be very, very difficult to get the ball through that and won't be the most fun of things. In addition to that, they tend to play with fairly dynamic wingers, but the fullbacks will do a little bit of overlapping just to add that little bit more width. They'll try and put the ball in the box from time to time. Voltemada, big threat, worthy of keeping an eye on. And something that they did a few weeks back, and I don't know whether it was brought on by injury or something, was they started playing Ramsdale a bit more. He brought a little bit more dynamism to them. He likes to play out a little bit more than Nick Pope does, but for some reason it looks like that experiment's done. So yeah, I think keep an eye on that one, but it's not one that I expect to really see happen. A very, very interesting fact, though, is that Newcastle this season have not yet dropped any points when playing against a team in a back three. Thank you. Specific details. When they are against a back three, their average expected goals against is just 0.76. They do not concede chances when they're playing against a team that's three at the back, whereas against a back four, they will concede on average 1.15 xg per match, which is significantly more. Admittedly, it's not vast, it's not some huge chasm, but it's enough to think, okay, that's more than just statistical noise. There's clearly a trend here. And for me, it's based on the fact that Newcastle like the numbers game a little bit. If you're playing with three at the back, you're less likely to have players higher up the pitch, and it means you're less likely to create those chances. And Newcastle, as I mentioned earlier, have a tendency to stodge out that midfield area and make it quite hard to play through. If you've got 5 players at the back, that means you're taking someone out of the midfield most of the time, and that makes it significantly harder for you to hold the ball, to win the ball, and ultimately to score goals. We're going to have to try and find a way to ultimately beat that. However, there are some areas of weakness that we need to look at. In terms of shots against, they've got the 5 most shots against that come from defensive action. So when they are being pressed, they're the 5th most vulnerable team to that. Admittedly, they're equal 5th with a couple of other teams. But that's potentially of interest. That's something that we can maybe look to use. But ultimately, when it comes to the defensive side of the game, they do have the 4th fewest shot creating actions against in the league. And they do have the 2nd best defence in the league on expected goals. This isn't going to be the most entertaining game of football, just to warn you ahead of time. But it's a game that might turn out in our favour if we are able to sort of work out why other clubs aren't able to create chances and create some chances for ourselves, or just put Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the end of one of them. That'll do it, to be completely honest with you. That's all we need. In terms of lineup, against what I've said in this particular video, think that we will line up with a 3 at the back. But that's for a pretty good reason, and that's the fact that our right centre-back in that three at the back system tends to effectively play as a right back. So in possession, we are playing with four, which means that we're able to pack out that midfield area and we're able to get the bodies up and sort of provide a little bit of support for the chance-creating players, whilst not being vulnerable when it comes to the defensive side of the game. That's why I think we'll stick with the 5, because at the end of the day, on the ball, it's more of a... Let's do some quick maths. It's more of like a 4-2-3-1, especially if it's Okafor, Aronson, Calvert-Lewin. Aronson has a tendency to play as more of a 10 in that system, whereas you get a Bogle or a Justin or whoever is playing at right back as the effective winger in that role, and then a Bornau or a Rodon is functionally your right back. I missed Joe Rodon, but it's fine. Hopefully we've got Jaden Bogle back for this one, by the way, but I don't know what the odds are of that because, again, I wasn't able to see the press conference. I think there's also potential for a sort of Metcha Calvert-Lewin combo return if we are seeing that we're unable to create chances in the middle of the park. It might become a job of, all right, so just bypass it, hoof it long to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, knock it down to Metcha, and then build from there. That means that you don't need to spend all that time working through the park. Instead, you've just got the ball at their end of the pitch, and you can either hit them very, very quickly, or at the very least you've forced them to reset a lot deeper and they're not able to do that sort of making it tough part. You've already surpassed that. Everyone floods forward to support. Cool. They're knocked back into their third. Interesting little note as well that I spotted on a Newcastle forum. Don't do this right now. Not when I'm in the middle of recording a video. I'm so far in. Another interesting little note that I spotted on a Newcastle forum was that they tend to play for 65, 70 minutes, a relatively sort of standing off game that doesn't create a ton of chances. This is fairly understandable, and the reason given for it was effectively, well, we play a hell of a lot of football. They are still in the League Cup, they are still in the Champions League, they're going to play a lot of football. In essence, this means that they're sort of looking after themselves for 70 minutes. They're not conceding too many chances. This dance is just going to keep on going, by the way, because it seems to have sated her. It's a situation in which they don't concede too many chances, and then they will hit in the final 20 minutes. If we're able to do something prior to that and force them to change their game plan, I think we could be in a very interesting spot. Ultimately, Farke's got a decision to make, whether it's that more solid play, the keeping the defence nice and sort of firm, or be a bit more creative, make chances, and force Newcastle into a different version of their game. I don't know what I prefer. Personally, I quite like the idea of sticking with the sort of 5-2-3 that converts into the 4-2-3-1. Keep Aronson on the pitch because he's been very, 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 very good. Okafor, I'm tempted by. I still think we're missing Dan James. I think a little bit of a pacey winger is something that would have been great in the recent weeks, but that's fine. But I'm going to wrap this video up before she gets a little bit too screamy. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, pop a like on the video, subscribe, all the fun stuff. I'm going to try and find a way to end the recording without dropping a baby. There we go. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. Or become a channel member. I forgot that one. Yeah, anyway. Toodaloo. Also, be on Big Up for the watch along with Joe. That's always a fantastic time. And I'm kind of interested. If you go to Big Up, say Joe B sent you, and I'll get an idea of whether actually saying this helps. Anyway, in a bit. Toodaloo. You chill? Okay.